Hey, it's Coach Taylor here from SmarterTeamTraining.com. I am regularly looking for people to talk with, talk about strength and conditioning, talk about athletic development. Just reach out to people all over the field, whether it's through social media outlets, through people sending books or suggesting articles, just in general, just trying to find ways to become better on a regular basis. And I had an opportunity to connect with a gentleman, a coach that's been around the game for a long time on LinkedIn. It just turned out that we had a couple of friends that were either on the show or we knew through different type of scenarios. And I just sent an email and said, hey, is there any opportunity I get a chance to talk with you for a second? And going back and forth on the email, I just said, hey, what's the chance you can get on the radio show here? And I got a guy named Coleman who's been in Major League Baseball for a long time. And he was very honored or thankful or appreciative of getting an opportunity to get on the show here with me. And I'll be honest with you, it's 10 times from my side of things, it's an honor to get a chance to talk to a guy at this level. I mean, I'm a baseball guy through and through. Played in college, played all the way up through the ranks from a little guy all the way to get an opportunity to obviously work in the big leagues myself. And to get a guy at this level to be on the phone with me is a real honor. So, Coach Coleman, man, I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day. I know it's pretty early where you're at, so I appreciate the sacrifice you're making to give back to the project here, and I look forward to just talking shop, my man.
Thank you.
Coach, man, could you do me a favor? I don't know a lot about your background personally. I mean, obviously you sent me your bio. I can do some research on Google and that type of thing, but I want to know a little bit about you as a person, man. Can you tell me a little bit about where your passion came from for the field and really how you got started in the business?
Like you, I played baseball from Little League up to college. And then decided that I didn't have the skills to play at a higher level. So after I got my degree, I went to the University of Oklahoma, got a master's degree, went to the University of Texas, got a doctorate. Then I started college teaching, first at Eastern Kentucky, then to Texas Tech, and then back to the University of Texas at Austin. And while I was teaching there, I got a call from the minor league field coordinator for the Houston Astros, and he was a fellow who had been a professional baseball player and became a marathon runner at about age 40, and he decided that if he could run 15 miles a day, then during instructional league in September, these minor league kids at 19, 20, 21 years old should be able to run 5. And after about 3 days, he found that his players couldn't practice; they were too sore. So his general manager told him that he had a good idea, because back then there was the era of aerobics and Ken Cooper, and everybody was running long distances. So he told him to get some help, and through the process, he actually contacted me. I went to spring training with him. We worked with minor league teams for the first 2 years, and then I moved to the University of Houston midway through the second year. I got a call in July from the Astros. They were 22 games out of first place and decided they wanted to do something at the major league level. So I met with them. At that point in time, we outlined a program. We picked out some equipment. We started some testing. Nobody had ever done any testing at all. I was doing astronaut selection with some of my students and some of my colleagues over at NASA. We brought in, our metabolic carts, our treadmills, etc., and we began to find out, what was a Major League Baseball player supposed to look like. There were no data at that point in time in terms of strength, aerobics, speed, etc. And once we got that data, we started the program in the off season, and it went on for about 40 years.
A lot of times when you're talking strength and conditioning, most people jump to the squat, the bench, the pull-up, the deadlift, the cleans, and that type of scenario. And one conversation I want to have with you here, just to get started, to be honest with you, is about the throwing programs and strengthening arms from a concept of pitching or outfielders or infielders. And there's a lot of different angles in baseball that we're actually delivering a ball or an object from point A to point B, and you got to be pretty strong. And it's a little bit different than weight room strength, if we want to call it that. I mean, where do you go to find information on throwing programs, arm strengthening workouts, and just in general information on developing the body for that throwing motion?
There's some information out there. Jim Andrews in Birmingham, his Sports Medicine Institute they've done a lot of research in terms of the biomechanics of throwing and so forth. But the bottom line is you're only going to throw as good, you're only going to throw as far, you're only going to throw as accurately as your mechanics permit. So the number one thing is that you need to learn to improve mechanics, because adding resistance to faulty movement is not going to make the faulty movement any better. So from that standpoint, the first thing you have to do is improve your mechanics. And once you've improved your mechanics, then it's a process of increasing your strength. And we believe that the body is a three-link chain. You initiate forces in your lower body, you transfer them through your trunk, and you apply them with your hands and arms. So you have to develop all three links of the chain.
When you're working with a baseball player, and I'm going to say that the shoulder capsule, the shoulder complex as a whole is probably one of the main weak links that people focus on. But are there some other key areas for, even if you can break it up into the pitchers and hitters, maybe that everyday kind of player, are there some areas of the body that you pay attention to depending on the position that they play?
Of course. When you look at the guys that play the corners, corner infielders, corner outfielders, these are your power guys. And so these guys are going to lift, a little bit heavier, do a little bit more work. Your speed finesse guys are going to be your middle infielders and your center fielder. And these guys, you need to rely more on speed and agility and so forth. So with those guys, there's less emphasis in developing bulk. There's more emphasis in maintaining speed and power. Everybody has a total program. Some of the lifts are going to be different for different positions. And at the major league level, different players have different needs, have different interests, have different limitations due to past injuries and so forth. So you have to sort of work around those. The important thing is that you adapt the program to meet the needs and the capabilities of the individual. We like to, in the old days, we did squats, and we've tried them all. We did back squats, we did front squats. And basically what we found was the limiting factor was the strength in the low back. And you can do things to improve the strength in the low back, but if you've got somebody that, is going through the grind that Major League Baseball players are going through, squats might be something you can do in the off season. But during the season, we play 162 games in 180 days, and we play day games after night games. And there's very little time for rest and recovery. So what we've gone to is a single leg split squat with the rear foot elevated, and we find that, we can get more performance, less residual soreness, less complaints of back and hip problems from the players by doing that as opposed to doing any other form of squat. In terms of upper body, you can't push the ball across the plate. And so we limit our upper body pressing exercises to dumbbell benches and dumbbell inclines. And again, how heavy do you go? We find that, most of our pitchers would stay in the range of 30 to 40 pounds. I worked with the All-Star team in 2012 and found that Clayton Kershaw was, he was doing 75-pound dumbbell benches about 30 minutes before he went out to pitch as part of his warm-up routine. So everybody's different. I wouldn't recommend that anybody do that, but it's something that he'd been doing for, 3 or 4 years in his career.
You brought up the concept of 162 games in 180 days, and I don't think anybody that's listening to this show, unless they've been through that grind, can relate or understand to that. That's that constant stress on the body, whether it's on the plane, whether it's on a bus, whether it's trying to find PB&J and do that peanut butter scenario down in the minor leagues, or even just trying to find an opportunity just to get away from the media at the big league level, just let your mind clear for a second. I want to talk a little bit about the road trips type scenarios. Is there anything that you do to help your athletes maintain their sports performance routines through just the concept of just getting away from things, and not necessarily recovery from the standpoint of what you do post-workout, but how are you trying to keep them mentally fresh throughout the course of a long season? As
you said, we play 162 games in 180 days, so the game itself is a sprint. The season is a marathon, so you've got to prepare for both. You have to have them ready to play. And you don't get them ready to play in the weight room. You get them ready to play out on the field. You get them ready to play on things that they do, after the games and before the games and so forth. So from that standpoint, one of the things that we always tried to do was that as soon as the game was over, we tried to give them some type of high carbohydrate, low protein snack when they came off the field. And in the Houston organization, we always worked out after the game. Our fields were air conditioned, and so therefore, it was more conducive to working out. In Arlington, the workouts are before the game because you're playing in 100-degree heat, and when the game's over, there's not much reserves left, so you just end up beating up the player if you work out after the game. And so, you take that into considerations on your travel. If you're going to Arlington and play, then you're going to work out before the game, or you're not going to work out at all. If you go to Denver to play, then you're going to limit your running to, relatively short sprints because you're only going to be there for 3 days. If you go to Chicago, Wrigley Field, you're going to do most of your workout before you leave home because their weight room, they have only one weight room, and it's extremely small. It's adequate, but it's small, and you can't cram a lot of players in there. You play a lot of day games, and there are opportunities that players can do things at night after a day game, and so you have to make your adjustments for where you play. My very first day on the job, my manager was a veteran named Bill Verdon, and he told me, he said, I'm going to give you one word. If you can take this word and apply it, you might have a long career. If you don't, you might be going home at the end of the day, and that word was adapt, that you have to be able to adapt to the situation. The players are adapting from at bat to at bat, from game to game, from season to season. And so you have to be able to adapt. He said, you may have the best workout planned, and we've got a rain delay, and we're there until past midnight, and nobody is going to be in shape to work out because we've got a day game tomorrow. Or we may play an extra inning game, and we get in at 4 o'clock in the morning, and so the next day the emphasis is going to be more on recovery than it is trying to get better. So with that in mind, you have to adapt. You have players that will come in after the game and say, I'm really tired. Do you mind if I don't work out today? And that's where you have to realize that, hey, recovery is probably much better than putting him in a hole by asking him to do more work.
If anybody's gone to the stadium early and had that chance to watch batting practice or some of the bullpen, side pieces, that type of thing, even before basically the stadium kind of gets rocking type scenario, they're going to see some strength coaches down the side, either stretching guys, putting them through conditioning type scenarios, whether they're getting their sprints in or they're getting their pulls in, that type of thing. I mean, what are your favorite conditioning drills for pitchers? And then also, how do you take care of the position players' conditioning needs?
In terms of pitchers, again, it's going to be a function of, what's your role? Are you a starting pitcher? If you're a starting pitcher, those guys are really easy to condition because they're going to pitch every fifth day. And, when it starts depends on who the pitcher is. We've had guys like Nolan Ryan, Roger Clemens, Andy Pettit, who would come out of a game and immediately start working out to get ready for their next start, which is going to be 5 days away. But typically what you would do with most pitchers would be that they would have a lower body lifting program the day after they pitched, an upper body program the second day, which would be the day that they throw their bullpen. And what we like to do would be to have them do one set of everything, go out and throw their bullpen, come back and do the remaining 2 sets. The third day is more of a total body functional program, using a lot of body weight. Fourth day, take off, and the fifth day you pitch. In terms of running, we've gone away from, long distance running. The system used is a system trained, and these guys, we want most of them to be power pitchers, and so we don't want them, developing more slow twitch fibers and so forth. And so our program is usually a program of short sprints, probably never running more than 150, 200 yards at a time. In terms of the relief pitchers, again, are they long relief? Are they short relief, or are they going to be the closer? And again, the function there is, these guys, we like for them to lift after the game, not utilize any of their energy before the game. And again, their running program is usually short sprints. Position players, we've always gone with 3 days on and 1 day off. We want to keep it short, and we want to get them in, we want to get them out. So they would have 1 day of lower body, 1 day of pushing exercises, 1 day of pulling exercises, and a day off. Their program, the extra men will run a little bit more than the starters. But again, it's short sprints, working on 10 yards, and we time every 10 yard that they run. and we're looking at their running mechanics. What's their foot placement? Are they using a drop step or a crossover step? Are they coming across their body? Are they coming up too high, etc.? And then we do a variety of stops and starts to simulate the movements that they're going to encounter the game. Most of the injuries that are going to occur during the starting and stopping process and change of directions. So we want to make sure that they're prepared to do that. We take the extra men, put them out in the outfield, have them work on starts, have them work on get-backs. So, they'll take a lead, and then they'll have to get back to the base, and we'll simulate an overthrow, and then they have to run to second base. Or we will have them take secondary leads and work on their breaks. We will run the curve in the outfield, having them simulate going from first to third, et cetera. So we try to simulate every movement that they would have on the base path and in the field at some point in time during the course of a week's activity. I've timed every player on both teams every time they run the bases. So whether they're running to first base or first to second or third to home, we get times on them, and then we card them and we look at them. And so we keep them on a spreadsheet. And if a guy has gone maybe 3 games where he didn't get on base, didn't score a run, we might ask him to do a little more running. But if he's had 2 or 3 games where he's gone first to third, second to home, we might ask him to cut back a little bit on his running.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the strength training atmosphere or culture that's within baseball, and depending on who you talk to, some people don't like doing shoulder presses, some people don't like doing bench presses all the way down to their chest, they don't like doing heavy negatives on a pull down or a pull up exercise type scenario. Kind of walk me through a little bit of the question, if you wouldn't mind. Are there strength training exercises that you avoid in your program design?
Yeah. One of the things we know is that the research tends to suggest that anything that you do behind your head, anything that you do over your head, increases the risk of impingement. Now, some individuals do these and they don't have any problems at all. Some people don't do them and they have problems. The bottom line is you don't want to be held negligent. And so with the minimum salary being $500,000 per year per player, you don't want to take a player and have him go on the disabled list because he's doing an exercise that the medical community says that it's contraindicated, or the research on that is relatively fuzzy. So from that standpoint, we discourage those types of activities. In terms of bench press, we let our players, most of the position players, like to do the bench press using dumbbells. Most of them come down to parallel. We've had very few people who, wanted to get on the floor and put their elbows on the floor and, to stop them from going down. But most of them, can control it and they don't go that deep. In terms of pitchers, some pitchers are, there's a culture there. There's a fear. Doing the bench press will, make you tight across the chest, will increase the laxity of your shoulder, et cetera. For those players, we have them do push-ups, and we do a variety of different types of push-ups so that they have an opportunity to make progressions. In terms of pull-ups, we have pitchers do pull-ups during the off-season, and we start them with, depending upon what kind of strength level they have. We may do band-assisted pull-ups, but we don't do any types of heavy negatives. That creates a lot of soreness, and you can't get an efficient workout if your players are sore all the time.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the concept of screening athletes for injuries and walking through the concept of, again, trying to use what you know and trying to find out what the body's capable of. When you meet with a player where they're coming up, from the minor league level to you guys, or maybe they're in a 40-man roster or whatever, and it might be even during the middle of the season type scenario, how do you walk the individuals through a screening process? When you meet with an athlete, depending on where it is, who are you going to use to actually incorporate that screening process? Is it you, the athletic trainer, physical therapist? And what are some things that you're looking for in that screening process?
Well, in terms of, the screening process, in terms of looking for joint abnormalities and so forth, that's going to come to the team physician, the athletic trainers, and so forth. In terms of physical performance, 5'10", 5s, vertical jumps, and so forth, that's going to be the strength and conditioning coach. And what we're looking at in those types of things is that as we put them through a workout, we're looking to see if we see any dysfunction. So if they're doing a squat, are they able to go squat down to parallel? Do their heels come up? Do they have? Is it their knees or their ankles or their hips that are causing lack of range of motion? Or are they leaning forward? From that standpoint in time. So if we've got a guy in and we see a lot of dysfunction in terms of his ability to squat, we will take the squat out of his program and we will put in things like prisoner squats and body weight squats and so forth, and to teach him how to squat, without teaching him how to squat. In other words, without beating him over the head with it or putting resistance to a dysfunction. And then, gradually work through that. Because he's there to play. If he comes up during the middle of the season, he's there to play. He's not there to learn how to lift. And so we make learning how to do those lifts a secondary factor. We have them do a lift that they can do that will satisfy his needs and our requirements. In terms of, and so as Gambetta said, every workout's a test and every test is a workout. So we're looking for movement dysfunction on every type of exercise, and we will either stop and correct him, or we will, stop and substitute a different exercise, and then, wait till later when we have more time to teach them how to do the movement. In terms of running and so forth, we spend most of our time looking at running mechanics, because that's going to limit how fast they're going to run. That's going to determine whether they have any energy leaks. That's going to, determine whether or not they have an increased potential for injury. One of the things we do is, as I said a moment ago, a lot of the injuries occur in starting and stopping and restarting, accelerations, deceleration type things. So when we test for the 5-10-5, the things that we're looking for is proper step progressions and proper body positions and stopping positions and so forth. And if an individual, has a slow time, we video everything, and we go back and we look at the video, and then we find, where's the weak link, and then we work on, movement mechanics to improve the weak link, rather than, just keep throwing drills at them and hoping that someday that they will improve, because they're not. They're only going to improve as much as their mechanics will permit, and then once their mechanics breaks down, all improvement stops, and it doesn't make any difference whether it's running speed, agility, change of direction, hitting, throwing, etc.
If you had the opportunity to talk to a high school baseball coach, and I don't care if it's at a clinic or a situation where they're getting an opportunity to talk with you one-on-one, again, it could be just a general candid conversation. I mean, what's one big consideration when developing their strength and conditioning program that they may not realize that they need to take advantage of?
The most important thing is movement. Do your players move efficiently? If a player can't, run and stop and change directions, then he's not going to be able to get a ground ball to one side or the other, field it and pick it up and throw it to the other side. So you can do all the lateral lunges that you want, you can do all the step-ups, you can do all the crossover drills, etc. But if he can't put himself in the optimal position so that his joints are aligned for proper function and maximal force production, you're sort of spinning your wheels. So the first thing is to make sure that your players know how to move. And if they can't move, if they can't start, stop, and change directions, teach them how to do that first. And if you're going to add a conditioning program, add a body weight conditioning program to those types of movements. Don't, throw external resistance or extra weight on bad mechanics.
If you're around hitters long enough, I guess you're going to start seeing guys ask questions about their forearm programs and their hands grip and that area between your wrist and your elbow type scenario. I mean, what are some real cool things that you guys are doing for that area of the body from, let's call it a weak link or a strengthening standpoint? Is it something you did on a daily basis? Is it something you did just as a normal part of the program? Is it something that you emphasize to just, again, buy into that culture of baseball? I mean, really, how did you attack that hitter's mentality of working your forearms and the grip?
One of the things that we know is that your forearms and your hands make up about 2% of the total muscle mass of your body. And you can't hit a baseball 400 feet with 2% of your muscle mass. It has to be a summation of forces. And so, you can have all the grip strength you want, but if you can't transfer those forces from your legs, your hips, to your arms, to your hands, that's the last link. We sort of feed the mentality. Somebody believes they have to have this as a pregame meal. you give them the pre-game meal and you don't fight them. You don't fight their thinking. You don't get them thinking about something different. So from that standpoint, we have sort of a basic forearm program. How often they use it is a function of how often the player wants to use it. We've had believers that, really were into it. We've had guys that did their forearms every day, and we saw a change from year to year. On the other hand, we had a player for almost 20 years, Jeff Bagwell, and Bagwell never did a forearm exercise. Once in his life did he, sit down and do a wrist curl or a wrist extension or any of that other thing. But what he did do was walking lunges with 80-pound dumbbells in his hands. He did bench presses with 335 pounds. So he lifted heavy weight and he sustained heavy weight using his hands, as opposed to doing the other types of things. And when you look at and you looked at his dad, they had big forearms also. So some people are genetically predisposed to have big hands. Some people are genetically just predisposed to have big forearms. Our forearm program, it varied. We did, wrist rollers, wrist extensions. We did take a sledgehammer and marks on it at 6-inch intervals from the end, and then we would have them do radial flexions and ulnar flexions, and then support their forearm and do pronations and supinations. And then by measuring the distance from the head of the hammer down towards the base, we were able to determine, what their radius was and how much torque they were generating. And the goal was for them to get, further away from the head of the hammer. So, we did those kinds of things. We did farmer's walks. We did the rice bucket, which is a pain. So we threw a lot of mud against the wall, and we found, what does a particular player feel like this is doing for him? Again, with the underlying concept being, grip strength has been shown to be positively correlated to a number of things, but again, it's only 2% of your total muscle mass.
I know you've been doing this for over 4 decades now, and I know you've made a big-time impact on a lot of people. What is one big message that you have that, or wish that people would take from you when they get a chance to hear you speak at a clinic or an event, or just get a chance to be around you either in a dugout or in a huddle as a whole?
Well, the most important thing is, don't stop. Don't, when you think you know it all, that's when you realize how little you actually know. So the important thing is to focus on the things that you don't know and to find answers for that. Michael Boyle, I heard him speak one time, say that, if you spend an hour a day reading in your field, by the end of the year, you would, be one of the more knowledgeable people in your field. But you need to pick and choose who you listen to.
Well, Coach Coleman, man, I appreciate you taking some time out of your day. I know you're a busy guy. Again, it's early in the morning where you're at, and I applaud your sacrifice again. It's been an honor to get a chance to talk to you, my man. If anybody wanted to reach out to you about anything that we discussed here on the radio show, or just find out about things that you have going on, or just maybe even reach out to you as a potential mentor for them to just learn stuff about baseball and some of the other things that you've done exciting in your field, in your career as well, I should say. How could they go about reaching out to you?
Professional Baseball Strength and Conditioning Coaches Society has a website, so you can go to Professional Baseball Strength and Conditioning Coaches Society .com, and we're posting 4 articles and 3 or 4 videos every month.
Well, again, Coach Coleman, I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day. I look forward to keeping in touch, and hopefully this will be a launch pad for us to do more things down the road here, my man. Good luck with everything you have going on, and I look forward to just keeping in touch, big dog.
Okay, well, thank you.